So you guys can see me in there, right? Orange, red, and yellow. So everything around me should be blue and black. So that means those are the coldest areas in the picture. It's going to fluctuate because we're going to be walking around. So again, if you take skin temp, because it's the warmest thing out here, if you take it out of the picture, that orange, red, and yellow should be going to other places now. So it's going more towards
the darker blue is the colder?
Right, the darker the better. So obviously we want those black and blue spots to kind of move around on their own. So we always want to try to keep somebody's skin temperature in play, because that's going to be the warmest thing, and it gives us a nice array of color when we're looking at the thermal imaging. Because if I were just pointed at the wall, it's going to bleed out to all red or all blue. So it's just going to bleed out. We want to try to keep skin temperature in here. So CJ, I think this is going to go to you, man.
All right.
So it also records audio. So that's one of the reasons why I gave it to him. So I want to hear if he actually has anything to say tonight.
Yeah.
The red square that's beneath your hand there,
Yeah.
that means it's recording. So if it turns to a circle, just let me know. Just means I have to splice some video together for you. I kind of like to know that ahead of time so I know what I'm up against in the morning. So again, you're going to be my video camera guy all night long. Just hold it horizontal so I can upload it to YouTube and send it back to my website so you guys have your stuff all in one place, and that way we'll have a nice video to watch. You, young lady, are the chattiest one out of the group. So you're going to get our spirit box. So spirit boxes are a way for us to communicate with the dead. So they sweep through all the FM radio stations at a very quick rate. You guys watch the ghost hunting TV shows?
Yeah, I've watched.
Okay, so you know that Zach Bagans likes to throw that white noise out there, and then he tells you what he thinks he heard in the middle of it, puts it on the screen. Same principle, only we're not going after just white noise. Mine is slowed down. Reason for it is because you guys aren't used to listening to this. So I have to slow down so the radio chatter actually comes through. So I want the song lyrics to DJs in the commercials. I want to know what you hear. Think of it as Bumblebee from Transformers. So he's going to be able to speak to us through the radio stations. It's a 50-50 shot that I can relate it to the location of where we are, a person I'm talking about, something going on with one of us. So if it says quiet, we know it's all about CJ, right? Sorry, I'm going to be ragging on you all night. So I'm going to get this set up. The cool thing about this particular spirit box is that it records the entire session for us. None of us can be, it won't record any of us, so no outside noise, and it also records when it's on mute. So when the volume's all the way down, your recording back to you is still going to be a nice even level of volume, which is super cool because that's the reason why I bought the data. Because I wanted to be able to give it back to you guys. Perfect. So really you have one button to worry about, it's the volume button, it's a wheel. You control the volume, which is really nice because we're going to be near some stables during the night and we don't want to be spooking any ponies. They don't like the white noise. So literally you turn the wheel to control the volume, and then we're going to work more on that spirit box at our first location. The first location is haunted, but it's more of a, I can teach you more about your devices. This is about quick, let's get them in your hands. So Jeffrey, you're getting my new device. New device, which I'm still learning more and more about, is a millimeter. A millimeter is kind of a trifecta of devices all packed into one. So first thing it has is an EMF meter built into it. So if anything, an EMF measures any kind of electromagnetic field. So with that being said, parking meters, cell phones, things like that are going to make it go off and make the numbers go up. So your bigger numbers are your EMF. I get excited about anything over 0.4 because I have a regular K2 meter as well, so I know the measurements back and forth. The bottom is ambient temperature, so in the event that he actually captures something and he's not sure what it is, he can actually figure out where the cold spot it is, and it measures it through the yellow probe here. The last thing it has is called a REM pod. So a REM pod on the antenna, it actually creates an EMF field around it, so if something actually breaks the field around it, it's going to go off. So it basically detects motion. So we don't always use the REM pod and keep it on because it's very annoying on your audio. So what I say is kind of keep this flap loose so you can get to it quickly, and it's the little white button on the right. So you have to click it all the way in order, and it's got to go in flat. The left button controls the left side, the right button controls the right side. So we won't always use that, so when we're not using it, we want to keep the antenna down so not snap it off. But we definitely want to keep an eye on that EMF whenever it's going haywire. Okay. So again, the REM pod can be very annoying, especially when you don't know how to reset it, which I'm going to get into that on the first location. Okay, so everybody pretty satisfied with the devices you have?
Yeah.
I'm going to be using one last piece for me. Actually, do you think you can handle 2 spirit boxes?
Maybe, yeah.
Because the other one works differently. don't have to listen to it. That's the nice thing. It gives you the words and spits it right out at you. So the cool thing about this one is that it saves all those words to a list, and I give you the full list back. And this is what I did last night, because I had another group, a smaller group last night, and the Spirit Box person had both of them. So we're going to try it again. It worked out pretty well. So this one is going to give us a word in the center of the screen from time to time, and then it's going to save them to a list, like I just said. Okay, so last night they had 63 terms. They already have them, so I'm going to clear them out and start you guys off fresh. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you about the list. This is an app, okay? It's meant to be for fun, games, hopes. 80% of what comes out of this thing is going to be bogus. It's not going to mean anything, okay? It's going to, yeah, exactly. That doesn't mean anything to this location at all. I'm looking for details and specifics. So when I can prove, I will actually give you the backlink again where I got my information. So you don't have to do anything besides watch what words come up. And I'll show you more about that. So you're going to be double-fisted. You got the super cool device, and you're the trifecta. So I just want to make sure I get as much out there as I can. Because I'm not the ghost hunters on TV that try one device at a time. I'm going to throw everything at it that I can. So, and I'm going to help out with all of these devices anyway. So we actually start here for a reason. This place is haunted, of course. So this place used to be called Big John's. And Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants. So whenever I'm giving you a history of a location, I'm always going to emphasize key words. So here, it's obviously John, 47, New York, and Giants. Not to mention anything wrapped around football. So that's mainly for the Spirit Box type mentality of when we're, listening or watching for words on there. So he used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would tell the bartender if the cadets that were coming over from the Citadel, if they were of age to drink or not. And if they weren't, he wanted them thrown out. One night, two guys come in, they weren't of age. John said, throw them out. So they left. They come back the next night, and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on, and obviously a big bar brawl breaks out between John and these two guys. A couple of shots were fired, and John gets hit in the neck. The bullet ricochets off his neck and goes into the wall. Big John gets up, goes back to the bar, tells the bartender to get him another beer, and they get the two guys on the floor in an ambulance. Nobody died in that story. So what's haunting the place? Guesses.
What was here before, John?
The bullet. It landed in the wall.
Oh.
So the bullet hole is allegedly still here. I say that because they're obviously renovating. So I'll have to double check that once they reopen. But people that sit in the front of the bar, they tend to get a little nauseous, headaches, dizziness, those kind of things. I bring the story up on purpose because I don't know how paranormal activity is going to affect any of you. In the event we actually have paranormal activity, which obviously I can't guarantee that we will. But I've yet to have a tour that hasn't had something, I'll say that. But in any event you guys feel any of those symptoms I just mentioned, please let me know, speak up, it's a big deal to me. We'll move on pretty quickly to get you out of that area. So it's not to scare you, because this technically isn't a scary tour, it's actual ghost hunting. But let's talk about something other than our own health. We had a big earthquake here in 1886. So with that being said, the mantle above your heads, a piece of it broke off in the front of the building, struck a man in the head, and allegedly killed him. Apparently that was the first death from that earthquake. I say all of this allegedly because I don't have any proof. I don't have any of that data. I dug and dug and dug, and I can't find any of it. It's just a great story, so you guys aren't thinking about getting a headache or being nauseous on my tour. So, are you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do this. We're going to go this way. Maggot? That's fine. So is Dad just not into this stuff? Like,
He likes it.
why isn't he here?
I don't know. Maybe it's too late for him. He's the one that watches the TV shows.
Oh, really? So he'll be helping you go through the data then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll probably think this is really cool.
Yeah, last week I was kicking people away, like, because I only go to 10 people. So I actually overbooked one tour because it was all one party. There was 11 in there. So I was like, all right, I can manage 11. I just don't want to go any more than that, especially since it was one party. But every other night, you couldn't get near me. I was sold out. Well, basically, it's been like that for 3 weeks. The last week was really bad with everybody wanting to get on. So this is what I call the Big Red Barn lot. So this is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides. None of you have lasers, so we're not going to even get into that warning. Your spirit box that you have, the red one, and I'll just refer to them as red and blue, not to give you Matrix references, but the red pill and the blue pill. The red one, we want to keep it to an audible level to you and maybe one or two other people only. We don't want to spook the horses. So, no, we're gonna talk about that before we can really crank it up a little bit. But the only history I have on this place is that this is the same red barn where they delivered, or that they held horses that delivered milk to Charleston. So the key words there, obviously horses, delivery, milk. They also delivered eggs, so the words calcium and protein can show up as well. So let's talk about those spirit boxes for a minute, because you have two of them, and you guys are probably all going to be intermingled. You guys, by the way, you can feel free to intermingle and try out the different devices. You're all one party. I'm good with that. So again, hopefully you guys do that, because I like when people have different experiences all over. We switched up a spirit box last night, just among the small group, and all of a sudden that spirit box started going crazy. So it gave us a lot of good stuff. But anyway, so spirit boxes. This isn't TV. This isn't is somebody here, right? Because if somebody answers no, that first off, that means somebody's here.
Yeah.
Okay, they answered you. If you hear a real estate commercial come through and it said the word houses, we think you heard the word yes in real time because of the pronunciation of houses. So we're just going to stay away from yes or no questions altogether. We want those specific details. So think of this entire time with me as a training course. This is novice level. So spirit boxes, well, you have both of them. I shouldn't even say spirit boxes. We're going to ask simple questions like, what color is the barn? Because you know what the answer is, right? Oh, that's funny. It gave us a color. But at the same token, it's not always going to give us the color red on something through here. It might be something specifically red, like a fire truck, a heart, blood.
Association.
Right, correct. So it's, again, about putting those clues together. If in any event you don't get an answer after a couple of tries of asking the same question over and over again, open it up a little bit. What's inside the barn? Now we know there's animals, horses, they're draft horses, and the words delivery, milk, and eggs might come up as well, and anything related to those things. So spirit, like that's basically how you're going to try this out with questions you already know. So the next level is basically, you're not going to know the answers. I'm going to give you probing questions, and maybe it might inspire something else. I may know the answer, but the questions I'll give you, I know the answers to. I'm just not going to tell you. I want you to find them through the spirit box. Thermal imaging. So CJ, this is all about you. So with that being said, we already talked about keeping a person in view at all times, so that way you have that different temperature. You should really just be getting slow pans. Like this isn't a cell phone technology like what we have now. It's thermal imaging. So it's going to be a little fuzzy and hazy, just so you know. After our next location, we're going to walk about 3 blocks. You don't have to stop and take slow video. By all means, just keep up with the group, and that way, you know, we have a nice video to watch, and we're not waiting on you to capture something where there's nothing haunted. So again, you're looking for those blue and black spots to kind of move. When we get to that next location, I'm going to show you a little bit more evidence of something you might actually be looking for, stuff I've actually caught with that camera. So again, it's an interesting tool to have at the ready. So you're not always going to catch things in real time. I mean, you're not watching it now because you're paying attention to me. So, and that's perfectly fine. I just need you to be the cameraman all night. If you spot something, obviously, I'll be looking for that specifically tomorrow morning. I don't want to stop the recording and interrupt it and look at it now. I want to look at it tomorrow. Let's get that REM pod started up so I can show you how to reset it in case it goes nuts. I want to make sure you know how to use it. Yeah, always extend it first because you'll make it go crazy. Alright, perfect. So you always want to try to be very still with this thing. However, you can even walk just real slow, even if you want to hold it flat like that. And in any event it starts going crazy and you can't get it to stop, there is a reset button for the EMF field that's around the antenna. And that is on your right side where your thumb is. There's buttons on there. It's the very bottom button. So if it starts going nuts, go ahead and you can tap it. It'll just reset it. You'll hear a little beep and you hold it in. If it's not, you know, resetting for you, you just hold it there until it goes back to green. Because, I mean, obviously, that's a quick motion. Yeah. And we can use this as communication too. If somebody's here with us, one of Big John's teammates, get close to the little metal rod that's sitting on the metal stick. So I don't always use terms that are technical because they don't know what that means. They don't know what a millimeter is. They don't know what a spirit box is. You're getting all kinds of things.
So I got
Another little tip about this, if you want to see the words, there's a little calendar, and then you can see all the words that have come up, and you can scroll through them.
It tells you the exact time.
Yep. So that way I can match it up with everything else. That's why I use this app. Never hit clear. That's always just circle back. Definitely don't want to hit the red X's because I want to make sure you get all the words. The red X's will get rid of that particular word. So let's walk around until we get some craziness going on here. What's your EMF doing? Anything? Nothing? 0?
No, it jumped to 0.4 over there though.
Parking, that would be the parking meters.
Yeah, yeah. it must have been that.
Because the parking meter electrical lines are underneath our sidewalks,
Oh,
so it's
really?
going to make it go off.
Okay.
So let's kind of just hover around the parking lot real quick and take your devices. Since all this is at this location, I want to get you some real history. I just want to get some kind of spike somewhere.
I know both of them.
Yeah, they can hear us. So we don't want to spook them. I do use laser grids too, so whoever gets laser grids, I tell them definitely no lasers on there because you will spook them, and they will kick the barn. So if we wanted a jump scare, that's the way to do it. I'm gonna actually pull out that other EMF meter just so you guys can get a different. I mean, you've probably seen those on TV. Just so we have another base. Types of electromagnetic fields. That is natural from the earth, anything man-made like cell phones and parking meters, and anything supernatural. So the fact that you don't have anything right now on yours, but this thing's going crazy.
Yeah, I had like 0.2 for a second. 0.1 again.
So the second green light is a 0.4 on yours. That's where I said I get excited. So what's making this one go off and why is it so sensitive? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes it starts way over there, sometimes it waits until I leave. We're standing on a sewer line, so there should be nothing here. I'm not close enough to the building for it to be making it do this. So I just kind of keep this one so everybody can see it, like in my bag here. And all the devices inside are off, so nothing inside should be making it go off. I mean, the recorder in here is on, but again, that's not strong enough to be giving us that kind of signal. I've had people try to debunk me, like I have buttons and stuff on me. It's like, you keep going in your pocket. I'm like, yeah, so what? It's cold. What do you want me to do? So, but you got nothing going on there?
0.2 just a second ago, but 4.2.
4.2. So that would probably be in the high yellows on this one.
Yeah. It's 0.6, 0.5.
Now it wants to spike over here. Are you getting any other words on there?
0.
Zero. So we're sitting here talking about numbers and it gives us 0. So let's walk, because I want to make sure you can hear something on the spirit box. Let's walk a little bit away from the horses and turn your spirit box up.
Ooh, I got 3.4.
Get some nails.
Oh,
You talk a little bit
something
louder so
touched
we
it.
can Huh? So a lot of times I got Big John's teammates here with me too. So literally it's like having a conversation. They're not in the box, so I don't need to hold it to my face. If somebody's here, give us your jersey number if you played with Big John. Never heard?
Yeah, I've read one.
I'm looking for a jersey number. Last night Frank was here. He gave us his jersey number and his name. So I don't get excited about one piece going off. Right now, this is piece number 1 because it would, it's going into little spikes. And he's getting little spikes too. So I get excited when something is going off, but if I can match 2 words together where they match up. We just talked about your nails.
Talk about my nails. Isn't that weird?
I don't call it coincidence because it happens all the time. And it's not like it's listening to us. They are. We are almost something. I heard you talking about. Again, I'm just trying to get you used to how to listen to it. I'm listening for numbers.
It's a lot of that like purge. I've heard of like a lot of times that purge.
Once again,
What did it say?
something hurts. It's almost like they're telling us like they can hear us because 95. So I am going to check this one on the spot just to make sure, see if that's a connection. that can get excited.
So long. Beach. Salon Beach.
No 95. I do have 90. So the other thing I'll tell you about this one is that because it is slower, it may pick up a word before or after the word we actually need.
Okay.
So in 95, we still have the word 90,
90.
and 5. So if a name shows up somewhere where the number 90 shows up and it matches the name, you obviously have a connection. So are you guys ready to learn some real history?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, this is boring. Let's move on. I'm going to start speaking for you. Is that okay?
That's fine. I do have a question.
Yeah.
How does the spirit box work?
Which one?
The one that spews words.
So it says that it's going through the FM radio stations.
Yeah.
But again, it's meant to be a game or a hoax. So it's literally just spitting out random words that's in its vocabulary. There's over 9,000 words in it.
Okay.
My theory behind the whole we can go ahead and turn it down. I don't like to disturb for us and whatnot. We're going to make a list. So the reason why I can relate some of those words to location of where we are, I don't call it coincidence when I see it every single night. So when I see things like, it just gave us the word nail and we were just talking about her nails, like to me that's not a coincidence. And then I kept hearing the word heard out of the other spirit box, like them kind of putting the clues together, like we can hear you, we just can't give you exactly what you're asking for. So again, everything we use is electronic. In my theories, the spirit world is right. They're going to be able to manipulate anything electronic. That's why we're not out here with dowsing rods and Ouija boards, because it's not electronic. Did it say car?
I just walked into here. It said it only walked in here.
Okay. So it's kind of a stretch, because there's a million cars out here. So the nail thing though, like, I don't know, I'm not going to call that a coincidence at all, just because we were literally just talking about how long it is. So you guys are going to find out I love parking lots because we can kind of spread out a little bit and explore them. And these are all places that once were. So what was this? This used to be home to Charles and Eliza Pinckney. So they had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. The nephew and the son, they were signers of our Constitution. Obviously the son was raised here. It's a pretty big deal for us here in Charleston. However, I hate politics. I don't think any of you want to talk politics. You don't seem very interested in politics at all. So we're going to talk about Eliza. So Eliza married Charles at a young age because her father thought he was dying over in England. He wanted all his kids home. She didn't want to go. So she got married instead and pretty much stayed here in the United States. Keep in mind, I didn't tell you how young she was. So this is where you're going to be like how old she was when she got married kind of question, because I'm not going to give you the answer. So once Dad got better, because Eliza was right, he was not dying. He starts sending over gifts from England. One of the gifts happened to be the plant indigo. So indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans that you're wearing right now blue. Okay, so if you think of the Civil War uniforms, that's obviously a big thing for us here in Charleston, the North wore blue and the South wore gray. The gray is just less indigo. So that's why indigo was so important here. The rice plantations were going downhill. We needed a new cash crop. Eliza had it. So she was able to call her dad up and say, hey, I need some contacts overseas. Let's sell this stuff and make a huge profit. That's exactly what happened. So Eliza started her indigo experiments right here. So that's why this place is so important. The house was in the front, her garden was over there by that tree, and we're standing where the slave quarters would have been. So the interesting thing about indigo is it was already here. Eliza just brought it to its fruition and height by talking to her slaves on how to keep it cultivated in our weird temperatures. Because it doesn't always stay warm down here, as I'm sure you guys know, especially you guys. So with that being said, we're going to ask some weird questions to Eliza because there's some weird facts, and it's going to prove like what's actually going on here. So Eliza, the one I just spoke of, was the the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back. So his first wife was also named Eliza. So both Elizas go by their maiden name. Not their middle name, but the name they had before they were married. So it's Eliza blank Pinckney. They both start with L. That's all I'm going to tell you. By the way, I'm not going to give you any kind of what color is the red barn kind of mentality here. You can ask anything you want to about her death, how old she was when she died, where is she buried, what did she die from, and which U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. She loves to brag on that, so that's a pretty big one too. So she had a president carry her to her grave. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Eliza was pretty important to the colonies. The mansion, it's obviously no longer here. You can ask what happened to it. You can even ask what happened, you know, when did it happen, so hopefully you get a year. So that would be really cool. She had 4 children, I'm going to give you that. Maybe you can ask her how many sons and how many daughters. But don't poke around too much with the kids, only because there's a tragedy mixed up in there, and she doesn't like to talk about it a whole lot. All activity will stop. So, how's your EMF doing?
It's doing our 0.5.
Okay. So this is if I were to have a grand finale, like this would be the ending, this should be it, because there's that much activity here. So the video I'm going to show you, so if you two want to go experiment with the spirit boxes while I show him this video, that would be really cool, so that way you guys can get used to asking questions to open air. I know it's a weird thing to do, so that's why I didn't give you the spirit boxes, because I knew you weren't going to do it. So, let me bring this up real quick. It actually happened in this location, that's why I like to show it off here.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Facebook is not always my friend. So this took place up in that corner, up there where there's no cars. And you can see, like, that's the wall.
Yeah.
So there's 2 living people walking past the wall. Do you see their heads? Because they're orange. And it's the same color as everybody else. Now we're going to find the dead people. So they're going to be right about here when the camera pans back around to that corner. And they're going to show up right at that wall. Dead, dead. Did you see them?
I didn't. What should I be looking for?
There are 2 black spots, right. I think I went back too far. See it that time. So I've sat down with firemen and mechanics, like people that actually use it as an actual tool, and it's literally frame by frame, it's 2 heads next to each other. It's not a vehicle, it would be too far away. Like, we've analyzed that little 2-second clip over and over and over again, trying to make heads or tails of it, and the only thing we can come up with is that it's paranormal, because the guy that's in view, like I told you, always keep skin tone. There's always somebody in view, and he's standing right here when that happens. He'll be right here, he'll come into view, there's his hot skin tone, and it stays there the entire time. So that's what you're looking for, those weird black and blue spots that aren't moving on their own. I have other clips, I just haven't clipped them out yet to be able to put in the evidence folder, but blue blobs, the last one I caught was just a few weeks ago, somebody's shoulder, which normally would have been warm, and because the rest of their body was warm, it was a hot night, it was over 80 degrees still, and a blue blob was kind of hanging out right here, and then just kind of drifted off into nothing. So it was like, okay, that's new. So it wasn't as dark as what I just had, but again, it was a warm night. So they could have only been 15 degrees colder. That's why they were blue. So I also know the variances. Yeah, it's some of the shit that we capture is like, holy cow, where the hell did that come from?
So it's completely random.
Yeah, you never know. And again, with your particular tool, I never know what I'm going to get. I kind of go through it randomly, like in spots like this. If I see anything that's questionable, I'll give you the markers for it, but if I don't see anything, I'm going to tell you. Like, I found nothing in the thermal imaging camera. And then it's up to you to watch the whole thing, see if you see anything out of the norm. And then you can give me the clip, you know what I mean? You can email me back and say, hey, look at 1 hour and 3 minutes right here, it got a little weird. Can you tell me what that is? And then, of course, if you catch anything in real time, that's something we're going to look out for, too. Is your EMF doing anything? Because this thing's going crazy.
Yeah, this one's going up.
How high?
Thomas.
It went up to like 7 on them.
Thomas. I asked her who carried her to, like, let her be now. She said Thomas. I said,
Which spirit box?
oh,
The words?
this one, the
So
word.
that makes sense here because the husband was a politician. And one of the amendments that he added to the Constitution was the Pinckney Promise.
Okay.
So that makes complete sense here. And I've had that here before.
Okay.
So
And then she said joy.
I can't prove that she was happy. So any stuff I can prove, hard data.
Hey, Eliza.
So I have other thermometers on me too. So like on top of the one he has, I have like surface temps to make sure you're not just catching something on a wall or whatever.
Mhm.
So if we have to, I can pull it out at the ready pretty quick with that stuff. Anything out of that REM pod at all?
It beeped a couple times, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Ooh, 14.6.
So we've seen that thing go all the way up to 116 here.
Oh, really?
Now the one I'm using only goes to 25. So
Really?
that kind of gives you a gist of how far that thing will actually go.
Yeah, it's pretty steady right here. 2.9.
Hey, Eliza. How old were you when you got married? Eliza, you don't answer my question.
And wind won't affect that, just so you know.
Yeah.
Like I've tried it with fans and blowing smoke on it and all kinds of stuff, and it literally has to be something interrupting the electrical field. So I know the wind was just blowing and it went off. I just didn't want you to have that misnomer because I've tested that before.
Eliza, how old were you when you got married?
How many children did you have? Digging.
I'll usually get things wrapped around a garden here too. So digging, dirt, flower, blossom, anything related to a garden.
What's your favorite flower?
Great question.
Oh. 23.4.
Eliza, tell us what your favorite flower is.
Favorite flower. Switch. Oh,
It does.
that
I
was
think he's
you.
just testing it.
Yeah.
Eliza, we're looking for that favorite flower of yours. I see the word history. We know there's a lot of history here.
Eliza, tell me what your favorite flower is. Mine's a rose.
You got rose?
No.
No.
That's so nice. That was mine.
A little windy tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Just hopping all over, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've never done an archaeological dig here, so there's no electrical
really?
lines or anything. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So one of the things that the wife and I want to do, we want to have a Stories in a Cemetery shop where it sells ghost hunting equipment, books on the paranormal, but have a haunted hotel upstairs. And we thought about like diving into this place and actually make it look like the old mansion. So
Yeah.
that way,
Cool.
so it'd be kind of like a dedication, but we want to have that dig so we can have the artifacts in the shop.
Yeah.
So that way
absolutely.
people,
She's just like stuck. Drop it.
in traffic,
Drop it.
or drop.
Yeah.
Any other words showing up on the list?
Just history.
Still on history.
Yeah.
Eliza, you want to tell us what happened to the mansion?
Eliza, what happened to your mansion?
It's weird that you're walking. You're a little bit more mobile with that than
Yeah.
most people that have used it, and you're not getting anything. And I have the range pretty small, so
Yeah.
you can see like the difference there. Just so it doesn't go berserk on you, because if I widen the range out to here, it's just going to go nuts.
Yeah, yeah.
So if it was sitting in a room, yeah, I would widen the range.
Mhm.
You know, just because I'm not going to be holding it, it's going to sit on a table or whatever by itself, so there's no other motion around it. But yeah, my EMF's going crazy.
Yeah.
The thing just said I'm not playing by your rules, but then it said rhetoric.
Interesting.
But now, what does it mean when it does that?
So a lot of that stuff on there is just for aesthetics. Like it's like if I were to have the volume up on that, it makes growling noises and all kinds of stupid BS that doesn't mean anything. So I just keep it down.
So dark.
So dark. That's cool. Hold it there.
Hey, Liza, what happened to your mansion?
The second button up on your thumb, not the reset button, but you go the next one up. Click that one time. We're gonna make the range a little bit bigger. So, see how much bigger that is?
Yeah.
Just want to see how close we're getting to. You can go to blue, you gotta get closer. Get closer to that metal stick.
Yeah, come closer.
Hey, Eliza, what happened to your mansion? Softly. Eliza, how old were you when you got married?
Favorite something.
Yeah, favorite flower. What's your favorite flower? Remember, we were just talking about that.
Devin. That name any?
No. A little too modern for those times. We're talking mid 1700s. Alright. I think I'm going to call it on this one. So let me get you guys the answers. Let's go ahead and turn that red one down. So Eliza was 22 when she got married to Charles, who was 45. So there was
Oh, wow.
23 years age difference. So he was double her age when they got married.
Was it arranged?
No. Not even close. Like I said, she got married because she wanted to stay here in the States, and her dad wanted her home. So she married him because she fell in love with him. And she was friends with the first Eliza. That's the other weird thing. And last night we had the term stolen identity come up. Because again, they had the same name. So it makes sense to me. But the one who planted all the indigo was Eliza Lucas Pinckney. The insignificant first wife was Eliza Lamb Pinckney. So Lamb and Lucas were the names I was looking for there. She was 70 when she died in Philadelphia. So she died from breast cancer that we know of, because that was in the late 1700s. We didn't even have or know what cancer was yet. So we're going based off her medical records. It was George Washington who was the pallbearer. So I always look for terms around Washington, which would be obviously his name, George, apples, wood, Virginia. Like all of those terms would make sense to me here. So, and I've had all of them. So it's always an interesting thing to see what comes up, because Washington's a lot to spit out on the red spirit box. What else? The mansion burned down in 1861 from the Great Fire of 1861. You guys aren't taking any other tours, but every tour pretty much talks about one of our great fires. We've had dozens. This one went from peninsula coast to peninsula coast. The building just happened to be in the way. The unfortunate thing for a person like me that wants to rebuild this and kind of, turn it into something, there's no pictures of the mansion before the fire. So I'd have to go based off of descriptions of people that have visited the home. What else did I have you guys ask?
About the flower.
Yeah, we asked with the
Flower. My daughter can always remember, because we always get the same answer, and I can never remember what it is. And I don't. It's a purple flower.
Lavender.
Wisteria.
Hydrangeas.
Can't remember what it is. It's not. And you guys aren't jogging. And it was funny, is I was a florist many moons ago, so you would think I would remember that. But we always get. Now we have dinner.
She talked about legislation over there or something? You talking about Congress or whatever?
Well, we were just talking about Washington. in Washington when he was in Charleston, because he spent a lot of time here. He actually did like an 11-day visit or something. But most of his meals were spent with the Pinckney family because Charles was a governor. He spent a lot of times with his governors, so he actually lived right here. So dinner, it's kind of a stretch, but I'll take it. It is what it is at this point until I listen to the Red Spirit box. I'm trying to think. I think that about covers it. I didn't see anything else come up that was really relevant. But again, those answers can come up later. You know, it's not like they just hang out here. And also, with her being buried in Philadelphia, I should also tell you guys why we don't actually visit cemeteries, even though the name of the tourist story is in a cemetery. You're not going to hang out where you're buried after you're gone.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people want to know how many cemeteries we're going to, and I'm like, yeah, you're walking through a giant one because Charleston is so much death between all the fires, the war, you know, everything else that we have going on here. So we're going to be walking up to Lodge Alley now. It's about 4 blocks up East Bay Street. We're listening for names on there. If you're going to listen, obviously keep filming. So most people, like you're doing exactly what most other people do. Like you just kind of you're perfectly fine because you're still giving us a view. You know, you don't need to be the cameraman all the time. You know, some people, their arms get tired. But your EMF should go off with some of the parking meters as we're walking up East Bay Street. Don't get too excited. We could probably shut the REM pod off.
Okay. How do I do that?
That's the white button on the back. Just click it back out again. Yep, put the antenna down. There you go. Perfect. So let's take a walk up Lodge Alley and see what we can capture up there. It's a brief stop at Lodge Alley because it's a quiet zone. That's why I said go ahead and get my REM pod. You guys not forget yourselves into?
Well, I have no idea, honestly.
It's usually a 50-50. I usually get people that are like, oh, we're can't wait to text the devices and get them in their hands. And they're like, yeah, we didn't know. We just thought it sounded cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Didn't we come here last time we were in Charleston? These were the horse tours.
What's the age group we have here?
I'm 23.
Okay.
16.
16?
Yeah.
Those that you can see of her in Dock Street Theater is from the knees up only. Remember I told you they renovated the place. When they did that, they raised the first floor ceiling, so she's walking on the second floor that she knows. So, interesting. And they also say you can see her apparition in red, which is in color. If you normally think of an apparition, it's white and wispy and very ghost-like. This is in color, apparently, so it's very prominent. Do I have evidence of that place? I don't. I've been there dozens of times. I have nothing. I get a little blip every once in a while. Granted, I haven't taken that new spirit box over there because I haven't been there in over a year. And obviously, I only got that millimeter about a month ago. So I'll have to take that in there to see what I can capture. But the place is gorgeous. You can tour it during the daytime. No, I'm not a sponsor for them, but it is a great spot. And it is, on some websites, noted as one of the top 10 haunted locations in America. Like, so it's that
How
whole
many of the top 10 are in Charleston?
one.
One, that one.
Just that one. The Old City Jail, like that's obviously a big tour here.
Yeah.
Bulldog runs that one. And they do, I think, give out like the K2 meters, like what I have here. They do tell a lot of like, we're going to put you in this cage so you can feel what it was like to be in here kind of thing. It's more more of a creepy jump scare type. And the place is haunted. I have done an investigation there, just not inside. I didn't need to go inside. I had enough on the outside. There was that much going on. It's a pretty crazy place. But if you really want something truly haunted and you have some of those phone apps, it's easy to just walk around the place during the daytime and you'll get enough. So what's cool too is at the top of your data page tomorrow, all of the tools and all the apps that I use, there's free versions of all of them. So they're all listed there because everybody asks. So it doesn't look like they're leaving that whole cemetery. I was kind of dragging this part out to see if you guys wanted to go up to the cemetery, but they're not. So we're going to go actually talk about some female pirates this way. So let's get you up and moving so he's not falling asleep over there.
Oh, I accidentally paused the video.
Did you pause it?
Yeah, I did, but I turned it back on.
Okay, cool. Thanks for telling me.
Is there like a principal or anything?
A what?
A principal?
Principal.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. So just the 2 videos?
Yeah.
Okay. Most people will hand it back to me and tell me, oh yeah, it's all one. And then it's like 30. So it takes a while to download all that stuff and then resplice it together. So we're going to be talking about that little building over there with the crosses on it. I start back here because a lot of tours like to go up to it, so that way, while I'm telling my spiel of what you guys are going to be looking for. So those crosses aren't actual crosses.
Just said boat and you're talking about pirates.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Hopefully we get the names of the boats from the pirates I'm about to talk about. That would be awesome. That would be very cool. So those aren't crosses. Those are earthquake bolts. So the gist, I told you about that big earthquake in 1886, right? So the gist of the earthquake bolt is that they would put it through the roofs and through the floors of certain buildings. So like the apartment building behind it has earthquake bolts in it. We just can't see them from this far away. You'll see it when we get closer. But they have turnbuckles that go through it. So if the building gets quaked again, you can literally turn those bolts and it'll straighten the building back up again. So
I think that might have been me.
okay. Yeah, I've seen you busting with the thing, that's fine. You got me excited there for a minute.
Yeah, sorry.
So this is the powder magazine. It actually held gunpowder for 7 different wars. It's literally right in the corner of where the Charlestown walls were. So the wall came up this way, the water's behind me this way, and the wall went about 1/2 block past the powder magazine and started going down towards the battery, towards the edge of the peninsula. So it's literally tucked in the corner on purpose. So if it were to get attacked, first off, those walls are 35 inches thick, so they're about that thick. So yeah, it's huge. So if a cannonball hits it, again, we're 3 blocks away from the water. So it's probably not going to penetrate it, but in the event that it does, and hits the gunpowder, and it makes the gunpowder explode, there's sand in that roof from 1712 that will blow up in the air and then fall to put out the fires.
Wow.
It sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't work.
Really?
We had another one, almost, I don't know how close it was to this design, but as far as like the way the roof is built, but it did have the sand in it, and it did have those giant walls closer to the battery later on. It did get attacked, and it did explode and burn to the ground because the sand wasn't enough to put out the fire. So again, this one was just never attacked. So the pirate story that attaches to this place is simply because of the time frame of when this building was being built. So it took 10 years to make this building, 1703 to 1713. It's the oldest government building we have on the East Coast. So it's not the oldest building we have, it's just the oldest government building. So again, we have houses that are a year or 2 older than this that are still standing. So that's always interesting too. The Pink House allegedly is 1 year earlier, so 1712. But anyway, getting back to this, a young lady moves here with her dad from Ireland and his mistress. So the mistress was her mom, and they moved here to get away from his wife. You guys put all those pieces together?
Yeah.
This story gets a little wiry, so hang in there with me. This one is a doozy. So she had to be pretty scorned for them to leave Ireland to come to America in 1708. Like, so just imagine how pissed off that wife was. So anyway, she sees this building being... No, you're good. You're good. All right, so obviously this place gets finished. She becomes a teenager. We got these pirates coming through town. She falls in love. This guy's name is James Bonney. Her name at the time is Anne Cormack. So Dad doesn't approve because this is obviously a filthy pirate. What does she do? She moves to Jamaica. She decides she's going to get married. She's now Anne Bonny, right? But Anne Bonny, or James, wasn't the pirate that she was hoping for. She wanted that Johnny Depp you know, kind of kick-ass pirate. She was a badass chick, right? So he was a privateer, which basically meant he was a spy for the British. So he was kind of a coward, right? He was spying on his own men. So she decides, I don't like this guy anymore. She falls in love with another pirate, guy number 2. I'm going to keep tally for you. So this guy's name is John Rackham, aka Calico Jack. So obviously a much cooler name. He's a badass pirate. He's new on the scene. He's got his own ship. She wants to be part of it, but she's a female. So she asks the new beau, can I be part of the crew? He says, sure, but you got to dress like a guy, and you could be a female in my quarters, which that sounds like a pretty good deal, right? So she agrees, and she's like, all right, whatever. So she's allowed to be a female in his quarters. Obviously, she gets pregnant at some point in time, because they're doing all kinds of stuff in there. He's the captain. He drops her off in Cuba because he can't have one of his pirate men showing that they're pregnant, right? So he drops her off for 9 months and says, have the baby, come back, and we'll figure it out. He's got some friends in Cuba. She comes back to the ship with no baby. We have no idea what happened to that kid, right? So, but she's dressed up a female because she no longer gives a damn about hiding her gender. It pisses off Jack. She goes down below deck to the crew that he just captured, and she starts flirting with another guy. 3. That guy reveals their gender, that it's a female, pretending to be a male, to be captured by the pirate crew that she just joined. So, yeah, crazy stuff. I told you this one was weird. So, this lady's name was Mary Reed, like you read a book. Okay, so the two become friends, obviously, because they have very similar interests. And she can...
both girls chosen guys.
Correct.
Okay.
So, they reveal their gender, and now they don't care. I mean, obviously, Anne Bonny came back to the ship dressed like a girl, so she convinces Mary to do the same thing and join the crew. Calico Jack obviously agrees. All the other pirates are down below deck watching the pirate crew that they just captured, making sure nobody gets out, but they're all too drunk to come up aboard when the British fleet rolls in. The entire British fleet comes in to capture the ship. It's Anne Bonny and Mary Reed trying to fight off the entire fleet. Obviously, they get captured. They hurry up and dress up like guys again, so that way they're not seen as females. And all the pirates that were down below deck get tried and hung pretty quickly for piracy, for obvious reasons. Anne and Mary, because they fought back, the Chief Justice wants to see them separately. His name was Nicholas Laws, because they fought back. Well, when they get up in front of him, they reveal their gender. They say, we're female, you can't hang us. He said, well, you're still pirates, I'm still going to hang you. So, they said, we're both pregnant. So he says, okay, we'll delay your hanging, but you're still being convicted for piracy. So, Dad's here in Charleston. He still has money left from Ireland when he was an attorney. He bails out Anne Bonny and brings her back home. Keep in mind, Anne Bonny kept her name because she was still married to James the entire time, because Calico Jack tried to buy the dowry, and he refused. So, she was still Anne Bonny that entire time. He brings her back home. Allegedly, she has 4 more kids by a new guy. She got remarried and died at the age of 84. Other stories say that she moved to Virginia and died at the age of 84. Why we have such specific numbers of 4 kids and 84, I don't know. But, again, I'm only giving you things that I found in books that were common, because the story is very all over the place. What happened to Mary Reed? She died in the Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. So you can use your imagination on that. I'm sure it wasn't pleasant at all. But she, and just so you know, her and Mary had a very similar background. So abusive, you know, kind of relationship with parents and those kind of things. So it was never good. With this location, this is kind of your expert level. Ask whatever questions you want. I've given you all the data that I know. And again, if I can relate something, like I kind of put that fabric piece together for you, we're going to kind of relate to that. For the filming, if you want to go to the front of the building, as long as you're not interrupting another tour to kind of see what the front of the building is, but we're mainly going to spend our time close to the side of the building, just because I don't want to interrupt those other tours. They do like to show it off. So, I want to see what we get out of this guy. This is normally a dead zone on this one. If I get anything here, it usually means something is popping up somewhere else. So, this is the location too where that thing likes to hiccup a little bit. So that last dot that you just hit may not have been you. I've had weird glitches happen with the thermal imaging camera here. So again, we're going to see what happens. Maybe we can get some answers, and you can definitely turn up your red spirit box here. If you're going to go towards the back where those other, like where the apartment building is, just kind of keep it at a, you know, lower level because they are apartments. And also keep in mind, that's the cemetery. That's the western side of the cemetery I was just talking about. So sometimes we might get the, like the number 17 for John Calhoun, who's the 17th vice president, things like that. So you just never know what you're going to capture. Even though you got what?
Jack.
You got Jack?
They said Jack's on there.
That's why we record everything. So
And it says a lot.
Baby.
Oh, the baby car.
See? That's why you got me here. You're probably walking towards the cemetery. I just looked at it. Not that I have a connection. Not to mention the trees that are in there. Gorgeous. They make great pictures for social media. For me, anyway. They're kind of spooky and creepy with the lights on them.
In a cemetery?
Yeah. Of course. It's all about the
Stone
social.
wall here.
Yeah, I think it's like older brick. Yeah, if you really look at it, like it's just really old brick, and the ivy is like super attached to it. Like that's actually coming.
Yeah.
Let's take it. So yeah, I actually, because that tree over there in the background, the way the light hits it, I get great pictures from over here. Oh, this tree right here? Yeah. What I wanted in the background. So if you stand like way back here, like it's an amazing picture. I think we're going to use the black and white.
It's a baby a boy or a girl.
And also, the steeple for St. Philip's is slightly off from the earthquake.
Oh, really?
You can't see it like physically, but it is slightly tilted. A few degrees off.
So are those bricks the stuff for the earthquake? The big,
The peach looking ones.
yeah,
Those
the
are the
squares.
earthquake, yep. So you can see they're on every floor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another set on the other side because there's a turnbuckle in between them. So you just twist them. We haven't had an earthquake since. There was no really no reason for us to have them. But a lot of the buildings, when you guys start to, actually tour a little bit more, just as a family, you'll notice like some of them have lions on them and pineapples and shit. They're more for decoration than anything.
Okay.
But we like to pride ourselves. And these earthquake bolts on the powder magazine, those were the very first ones we put in. Obviously because of what the building is. And you can see how crude they are. I think the one on the right is actually coming off the building.
Yeah.
But that sand is still in there, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
It's in the roof?
So they had to do some repairs back in the 1990s to make it a museum and get it ready. Because it's a museum now. They'll show you all the different wars it served in and shit. It's really cool in there. It's only a quick, like, $5 or 30-minute tour because it's so small.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still really cool to see all the different uniforms that it served in. But yeah, they did some repairs on the roof because the shingles were breaking up a little bit. And they found the sand because sand doesn't disintegrate. So it's still there. Crazy stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Toronto's a weird city.
It's pretty old, too.
Yeah. 1670. That's when it started. What are you getting on there? Is that have you hearing anything? So vote makes sense too because pirates are
Oh, she put that right after boat, too.
Yep. That was the whole point of these golden age pirates, because they were coming up with their own democracy to get away from the British. I'll be really interested to see what comes up on the red line. As you get closer up to that corner, Jeffrey, like there's electrical lines up
Oh,
there,
yeah,
so
I
you're
see
gonna
that.
get a little bit going on there. So make sure we're still recording here. I always double check. Especially.
You
getting me excited, man. Oh, hang on. No way. Got a little yellow blip. It's not always going to be the Pinckney Mansion. Remember how it was going nuts?
How old were you when you had the baby?
That's a good question. Numbers don't lie. So I will tell you, I started doing your first tour. That was a weird November 28th, 2020. The reason I remember that date is because it was the exact 300th anniversary of the trial. November 28th, 1720. So I had the number 300 show up that night. I was like, okay, we actually got some shit going on. I didn't even believe this story because I'm like, there's no tie to the Powder magazine. So, like, the podcast episode I did on this place was like, really? You're going to attach a pirate to a Powder magazine where there was no death? Like, come on. But because it's familiar from her time period when she moved here, it makes complete sense. Once I started getting the evidence to see it was actually coming up. I've had terms like Save My Child come up. Again, I get weird blips here. Thermal imaging camera likes to act up here. So we did get a few catches on that REM pod here. I want to say it was Saturday night.
This said mama. Said mama.
You could probably spend it up a little bit digging here. We'll spend like 5 more minutes here and then wrap it up if nothing's coming through. So what do you think, man? You think we captured anything?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen anything on this, but I haven't really been looking at it.
I meant in general. Because I mean, I'll always find something. That's the thing. Is the places that we go to, like they're all haunted. That's the difference between this tour and what that other guy was doing. The legends and lore was just for fun. So if I get anything out of that, it's like, oh, okay, I got the word Dr. and Brown because that was his last name. You know, cool stuff. And name Sue comes up. Oh, that's from the photo story.
Is the cemetery open?
This is open during the daytime.
It said 1964. And then 1974. It's kind of like to put 4. Go past that 4. And
Yeah. My first thought goes to 64. But I did say that the alleged death date age was 84.
yeah.
So
She was 84 years old when she died.
allegedly, because I have had that number show up here before.
64?
84.
84?
You did pretty good in those shoes. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I was worried.
Her name's Mary, right?
Yeah, and what's odd about that is, you gotta remember, most names transposed to something else. It was another person related close. Anne's mother's name was also Mary. Mary Brennan. So, too big. Any detail.
Mary. How old were you when you had your first baby?
And I had a long way to yellow. Between 2.5 and 10. So,
Goes over by that daughter. We need to talk to him.
so it's gotta be, where it's measuring, it's gotta be down in here somewhere, so that way it's not touching this particular. podcast and posting it, so they're selling tickets and the whole nine. But they invited me because of what I do. So they're like, bring as many devices as you want. I'm like, I'm bringing my whole damn thing.
36 something.
No. It would have been, well, I have a little bit of the electrical lines for the lamps. I don't know where that close enough to go up the front too. So I definitely like the accuracy of that versus this guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just nice to have. This one usually goes to the kids. Like, if I get, like, under 10, so I'll hand it to them, so that way they have blinkies to look at all night.
Not much to touch, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't, there's one button. You know, you can't screw this up.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's been dropped probably 1,000 times, you know, in the past couple of years.
What tree? We're by church.
We are by the church. Triangle. So what I'm going to look for on that is the different pirate flag. The Blackbeard flag is pretty skull and swords. And you see, he had shit on his, like, I'll look at top of it. There's other ones that have different basic shapes like pirate flag. I'll definitely look at that. That's been my first thought. Yeah, that would have been like late.
I've been thinking of like random numbers too, but none of them make sense. Like I had 79 earlier. I've just been asking like college years and shit, math and all that.
Well, yeah, that's why we're recording. Another get more answers tomorrow morning. And it's much easier to hear when it's coming from your phone, or you know what I mean, and you're not, and you have like headphones on. Like I listen to it just on my computer speakers,
Yeah.
you know, so that way I can hear the dogs and where they're at and all that mess. But it's still easier to hear when you're just going through it that way. So even on your guys' drive back and whatever, I mean, it stays on my website. You can listen to it whenever, but you can also download it. You just right-click it, and it's an MP3, so you can just download it to your phone if you want. But yeah, all those apps are really cool. So the free version of this one only has like 2,000 words. This one has 9,111.
Oh wow.
So, and I think I only paid like $3 for it. So, well worth it. I think. We're still, yeah, we still got all these church terms.
Yeah. You think it could be people from the church and not
Could
her?
be. Could be the Maddie Dickerson story. So, alright, I say we wrap this up. Let's go meet up with Jeffrey and I'll get you guys my card and then back to your car. Alright, I'm gonna call it. We got a couple of terms wrapped around the church. We got like faith and priest. She heard a bunch of numbers, so I'll definitely be listening for those in the morning to see if anything, you know, matches up, and kind of take it from there. But I think I'm gonna collect your red spirit box last, just so it will continue recording for that extra 30 seconds or so. So I'll take
Oh
the.
good God, it's been saying